Hello and welcome to Courts Today by Live Law. Let us get to today's top legal updates. The Supreme Court has reserved judgment in the suo motu case over child rape cases and lack of special POCSO courts in many states also flagged. Mukesh Ambani's Reliance Industries and others have sought trademark registration of Operation Sindoor. The Supreme Court has directed demolition of illegal structures on public land in Okhla village in Delhi. In the Lakhimpur Kheri case, the Supreme Court has allowed Ashish Mishra to visit Lakhimpur Kheri every weekend to meet his family. The top court has directed states to identify laws discriminating against leprosy affected persons. And the Chhattisgarh High Court has held that child adoption leave is a fundamental right of adoptive mothers under the Article 21. I am Urvashi Chauhan bringing you the important legal updates of the day, quick, crisp and to the point. Watch this video till the end, and if you find this update valuable, do not forget to like, share and subscribe to our channel. The Supreme Court has reserved its judgment in a suo motu case initiated in 2019 to address systemic flaws in the implementation of Protection of Children from Sexual Offences Act 2012, also known as POCSO. The matter was heard by a bench comprising Justice Bila M. Trivedi and Justice P.B. Varale. Senior advocate and amicus curiae Uttara Babbar submitted that the court had previously issued multiple directions regarding the establishment of special POCSO courts, appointment of special public prosecutors, and training of officials handling the POCSO cases. She requested that the court continue monitoring compliance, particularly in light of several states still failing to meet the requirement for special POCSO courts laid down in the 2019 order. During the hearing, Justice Trivedi noted that while the situation had improved since 2019, the core issue remained the acute shortage of judges in the country. She observed that establishing special courts alone would not suffice, as many of these courts were not adequately staffed. She further remarked that special acts are enacted saying there shall be special courts, but these are being run by regular judges. She remarked that special acts are enacted saying that there shall be special courts, but these are being run by regular judges. That there is shortage of judges and that this is the hard reality. Babbar also presented a list of states that are currently falling short in establishment of special POCSO courts. For example, states of Andhra Pradesh, Bihar, Chhattisgarh, Jharkhand, Madhya Pradesh lack 5 courts, Maharashtra 19 courts, West Bengal 53 courts, etc. One of the advocates informed the bench about an impleadment application filed in the All India Judges case, stating that although the court had ordered the creation of special courts under that matter, the existing shortage of judges could hamper the functioning of general courts. When the court asked the state councils for updates on compliance, most sought additional time to obtain instructions. Expressing concern, Justice Trivedi said that this matter is adjourned from time to time to allow you to take instructions. Well, the court has now reserved this judgment in the matter. Stay tuned to know the verdict. In the next update, let me tell you, Mukesh Ambani owned Reliance Industries has moved an application before the Trademarks Registry today seeking registration of Operation Sindoor as a work mark. The registration of the term has been sought for goods and services under Clause 41, which covers education and entertainment services like TV shows, films, training content, or other media-based offerings. Meanwhile, 3 other individuals, namely Mukesh Chetram Agarwal, Group Captain Kamal Singh, and Alok Kothari, have also applied for registration of the term. As you already know, Operation Sindoor was an operation launched by the Indian Armed Forces in the intervening night of 6th and 7th May, targeting terror camps in Pakistan and Pakistan-occupied Kashmir. This comes in the wake of the Pahalgam terror attack, where 25 Indians and 1 Nepali national were killed. Reportedly, a total of 9 sites were hit during the operation. The strikes were described as focused, measured, and non-escalatory, with no Pakistani military facilities being targeted. According to official sources, India exercised considerable restraint in both the selection of targets and the method of execution. The Supreme Court has directed the Delhi Development Authority and the Delhi government to demolish unauthorized constructions spread across more than 4 bighas of public land in Khasra number 279 of Okhla village, Delhi, within 3 months. A bench comprising Justice Abhay Asok and Justice Ujjwal Bhuya issued the order while hearing a contempt plea concerning non-compliance of its 2018 judgment in the MC Mehta versus Union of India case, which dealt with unauthorized constructions on public lands in the capital. The court made it clear that a 15-day advance notice must be served to all the affected persons before any demolition is carried out, giving them the opportunity to take legal action if they choose. It further directed both the DDA and the Delhi government to file compliance affidavits within 3 months. The petitioner's counsel informed the court that the petitioner no longer wished to pursue the contempt plea. Taking note of this, the court decided to continue the matter on its own motion as a suo motu proceeding and directed that the petitioner's name should not appear in any demolition-related notice. The case here relates to Khasra number 279, like I said, which comprises 34 bighas and 8 biswas of land. The court recorded that 13 bighas and 14 biswas of the area are vacant and do not require any action. Another 11 bighas and 11 biswas are located within the boundaries of the Uttar Pradesh Irrigation Department, and therefore no action was ordered on that portion either. What remains in dispute is the unauthorized construction spread over approximately 9 bighas and 3 biswas. According to the court, the DDA is currently in possession of the 5 bighas and 15 biswas of this land. Out of this, 3 bighas and 5 biswas are protected under the PM Uday scheme, which recognizes property rights of residents in unauthorized colonies. The remaining 2 bighas and 10 biswas are outside the scope of the scheme and have been directed to be cleared by DDA through demolition. For the remaining 3 bighas and 8 biswas, which are not yet in DDA's possession, the court noted that 1 bigha and 8 biswas are also covered under the PM Uday scheme. However, since the 2 bighas of land are not protected and have not been handed over to the DDA, the court directed the Delhi government to carry out the demolition in this portion in accordance with the law. Earlier, the DDA had informed the court that it could not proceed with demolition as it had not taken possession of the land, and in March this year, the court had sought a personal affidavit from DDA's vice chairman explaining the inaction. The vice chairman, in an affidavit filed in April, maintained that DDA could not act without formal possession of the land. Well, in light of these developments, the top court today ordered both the DDA and the state government to act on the unauthorized structures falling within their respective jurisdictions and reiterated that all such actions must follow the legal procedure, including adequate notice to the affected parties. Coming to an update in the Lakhimpur Kheri case, the Supreme Court today modified the bail conditions of Ashish Mishra, son of BJP leader and former Union Minister Ajay Mishra, the prime accused in this case, allowing him to visit Lakhimpur Kheri every Saturday evening to spend time with his family. However, the court made it clear that Mishra must return to Lucknow by Sunday evening and must not participate in any public meetings or political activities during his visit, which must remain strictly private and family-oriented. The case, as you know, rises from the October 2021 incident in Lakhimpur Kheri, where a convoy of vehicles linked to Ashish Mishra allegedly plowed through a group of protesting farmers, resulting in 5 deaths. In January 2023, the Supreme Court had granted Mishra interim bail for 8 weeks and later made it absolute, allowing him to reside in either Delhi or Lucknow. A bench comprising Justice Suryakant and Justice N.K. Singh passed this order today while considering Mishra's application seeking relaxation of his bail terms. As per the previous conditions, Mishra was barred from entering Lakhimpur Kheri except for attending the trial. Senior advocate Siddharth Dave, appearing for Mishra, submitted that he had not met his daughters in 4 years and requested permission to stay in Lakhimpur Kheri for 10 to 12 days a month. When the bench questioned why his family could not visit him in Lucknow, Dave cited the distance of 200 kilometers and the favorable climate in Lakhimpur, adding that Mishra's mother was also unwell. During the hearing, Uttar Pradesh's Additional Advocate General Garima Prasad informed the bench that 16 out of 208 witnesses had been examined so far, including 10 injured witnesses. She added that the prosecutor was examining if the number of formal witnesses could be reduced to expedite the process. Justice Kant noted that if several eyewitnesses belong to the same family, the prosecution could consider examining only one of them, although the final decision rested solely with the prosecution. Advocate Prashant Bhushan, appearing for the victims, sought to intervene by pointing out that the victims were run over by vehicles allegedly driven by the accused. When Siddharth Dave objected, arguing that Bhushan's clients had no direct role in the trial, Justice Kant emphasized that victims have the right to participate and assist in the prosecution, stating that they cannot be expected to be idle spectators. To know more details about this, you can visit www.livelaw.in. In another update, the top court today directed all states to form committees to identify and eliminate discriminatory provisions in their laws, rules, regulations and bylaws that target persons affected or cured of leprosy. These directions were issued in a batch of public interest petitions that that highlighted the continued presence of derogatory and exclusionary language in legal frameworks even after medical advancements have made leprosy entirely curable. Leprosy was historically treated as a dreaded, incurable, and highly contagious disease, which led to the enactment of the Indian Lepers Act in 1898. This law allowed for harsh measures such as arrest without warrant, forced segregation in leprosy asylums, denial of voting and property rights, and a ban on employment. With the introduction of multi-drug therapy in 1981 and the World Health Organization's confirmation that leprosy is completely curable and non-contagious, this colonial-era law was eventually repealed. However, the petitioners, including Federation of Leprosy Organizations and the Vidhi Center for Legal Policy, pointed out that many similar discriminatory provisions remain embedded in over 145 state legislations, rules, service regulations, and government orders across the country. Before a bench of Justices Surya Kant and N.K. Singh, senior advocate Vinay Garg submitted that while some central laws were amended in 2019, many state laws still contain offending provisions. Advocate Rashmi Nandkumar, representing Vidhi, reinforced that these provisions continue to violate the dignity and rights of persons who have been affected or cured of leprosy. The court noted that although a previous order had required states to review such laws, compliance appeared inadequate or unclear, and information received was chaotic and incomplete. To address this, the court has directed the chief secretaries and law secretaries of all states to constitute committees within 4 weeks, preferably headed by an officer in the rank of principal district judge. These committees are to carry out a comprehensive review of all state laws, statutory rules, service regulations, and bylaws to identify discriminatory references to leprosy-affected individuals. The committees will also include government orders and cooperative society laws in their review. States have been permitted to request the chief justices of their high courts to nominate judicial officers to assist in this process. And once complete, these reports must be forwarded to the Registrar General of the Supreme Court. Standing counsels for all states have been directed to remain present in future hearings and report on the actions taken. The court underlined that this exercise is essential to bring all laws in line with constitutional guarantees and ensure the dignity, equality, and full participation of leprosy-affected persons in society. And lastly, in an important decision, the Chhattisgarh High Court has ruled that women who adopt children are entitled to the same maternity or childcare leave as biological mothers. The court emphasized that motherhood is a fundamental right under Article 21 of the Constitution, regardless of how a woman becomes a mother, whether by birth, surrogacy, or adoption. This particular case involved a woman officer at IIM Raipur who adopted a 2-day-old baby and sought 180 days of child adoption leave under central government rules. But the institute denied her full leave, offering only 60 days under its internal HR policy. The woman moved the High Court after failed attempts to get relief from the Women's Commission. Justice Bibhu Datta Guru ruled in her favor, saying that adoptive mothers cannot be discriminated against and are equally entitled to maternity leave. The court clarified that when an institution's rules are silent, central government rules apply, and under those rules, adoptive mothers are entitled to 180 days leave. The court also said that right to motherhood is not just a benefit, but a constitutional guarantee tied to a woman's right to dignity, equality, and participation in the workforce. It added that denying maternity leave to adoptive mothers could force women to leave their jobs and affect the upbringing of newborns.